If you're a man in your 60s or older, you need to hear this clearly. The fruit you're eating for breakfast, the one you've always believed was a healthy choice, may actually be quietly undermining your erections. Day after day, without pain or warning, it could be weakening blood flow, lowering testosterone, and robbing you of your sexual vitality, all while you think you're making the right decision. I'm Dr. Edward Kara. For over 3 decades, I've worked with men to help restore their performance and confidence, naturally and without prescriptions. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through what's really going on inside your body and how you can reverse it. Because this isn't just about breakfast, it's about misinformation and how even foods labeled healthy can work against you if you're not careful. Today, we're uncovering the truth behind 7 fruits that can negatively impact blood flow, hormones, and sexual function, especially when eaten first thing in the morning. Most men have never been warned about these fruits. In fact, many eat them every day thinking they're doing their bodies a favor. But science and experience say otherwise, and you'll want to pay close attention, because the 5th fruit on this list is hiding in nearly every home across America. It's likely doing far more harm than you realize. Before we dive in, make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell if you want more practical, straightforward health advice designed specifically for men over 60. I promise to keep it real and relevant. If this resonates with you, type 1 in the comments. If not, type null. Your feedback helps me serve you better. Let's begin. Fruit 1. Bananas, especially when overripe. The first fruit you should think twice about, especially if you're serious about protecting your erections, one you probably have in your kitchen right now. It's been a breakfast staple for decades. Fast, portable, and often recommended for heart health. But when it comes to sexual health, bananas, particularly the overripe ones, can quietly become a problem. This one was a surprise for me too. Like many, I grew up thinking bananas were the perfect morning food, rich in potassium, low in fat, easy to digest. But as I began working more closely with older men, I realized there was another side to the story, one most of us never hear. As bananas ripen, their natural starches turn into simple sugars. That soft, sweet banana you slice into your oatmeal or blend into your smoothie is actually delivering a quick hit of sugar to your system. And eating it first thing in the morning, that's when it hits hardest, spiking your insulin and setting off a chain reaction that doesn't support testosterone or healthy circulation. Why this matters for older men. As we age, insulin becomes a hormonal bully. It pushes testosterone down, disrupts nitric oxide, the compound that lets blood vessels relax, and irritates the very arteries your erections depend on. So even though you think you're giving your body a healthy start, what you're really doing is slowing down your sexual performance. The damage isn't immediate, it's gradual. What makes this so sneaky is how quietly it happens. One day your morning erection isn't quite as strong. Then a few days later, it's gone altogether. It doesn't feel like a crisis, it feels like aging. But it's not just aging, it's the accumulation of daily choices like breakfast. A smarter way to eat bananas. Now, if bananas are one of your favorite fruits, you don't have to give them up completely. But never eat them alone, and especially not first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. If you want one, have it with a handful of nuts or a couple of boiled eggs. That protein and healthy fat slows down the sugar rush and protects your hormones. Otherwise, it's like throwing gasoline on a metabolic fire that's already burning low. Fruit 2. Grapes, the sweet saboteur. If you thought bananas were questionable, wait until you hear about the next one. Small, juicy, and deceptively innocent grapes might seem harmless. But for men in their 60s, they can be one of the worst fruits for maintaining healthy blood flow. Why grapes aren't as guilt-free as they look. Still with me? If this is making sense and helping you think differently about your health, type 1 in the comments to let me know you're here. Let's keep going. Grapes were once my go-to snack. I'd pop a few in my mouth throughout the day, thinking they were a clean, safe choice. No peeling, no prep, just nature's candy. But here's what changed my mind. Grapes are packed with natural sugars, especially considering how small they are. They're mostly sugar and water, and that combo makes them digest incredibly fast. So, when you eat a handful of grapes on an empty stomach, You're hitting your bloodstream with a sugar surge. That surge triggers insulin, and the chain reaction begins higher blood sugar, lower testosterone, more vascular stress. Fruit 2. Grapes, the sweet saboteur. Here's what happens when you eat grapes. Your body sees the sudden sugar load and releases a surge of insulin to bring your blood sugar back down. That might seem like no big deal, but for older men, that insulin spike sets off a chain reaction that's anything but harmless. It suppresses testosterone, constricts the blood vessels that supply your erection, and leaves your sexual function weaker over time. The damage is gradual. You won't feel it in a single moment, but over weeks and months, it shows up in subtle, way slower morning energy, less responsiveness to arousal, and a slow fading of the confidence you once had. You might chalk it up to aging, but sometimes the real culprit is hiding in plain sight in your fruit bowl. Now, if you still like grapes, I'm not saying you have to give them up entirely. Just be smart about when you eat them. Avoid them in the morning, especially on an empty stomach. Instead, have them later in the day, after a protein-rich meal. That way, your blood sugar stays more stable and your hormones stay in your favor. Fruit 3. Orange juice, the sugary morning trap. Let's talk about another common breakfast item that seems healthy but quietly works against your performance. Orange juice. For years, I believed a cold glass of orange juice was the perfect start to the day. Vitamin C, right? It felt clean, refreshing, and energizing. But I've since learned the hard truth: orange juice is not the health drink it was made out to be. It's not a whole fruit. It's a concentrated hit of sugar without the fiber, without the balance, and without the benefits you think you're getting. A single glass of orange juice can pack the same sugar load as a can of soda. And when you drink it first thing in the morning, that sugar hits your bloodstream like a freight train. What follows is a surge of insulin. And as we've already discussed, insulin is no friend to testosterone or blood flow. It shuts down the very mechanisms that keep erections strong, narrowing arteries, lowering hormone output, and disrupting your energy throughout the day. That mid-morning slump you feel, that fading sex drive, it might be the juice and not your age. If you enjoy citrus, eat a whole orange instead. The natural fiber will slow the sugar absorption and deliver nutrients in a more balanced way. Better yet, start your morning with water or herbal tea, and save any fruit for after a meal rich in protein and healthy fat. Fruit 4. Watermelon, the sugar surge in disguise. At first glance, watermelon seems like a perfect health food. It's refreshing, hydrating, and you've probably heard it contains citrullinean amino acid that supports blood flow. I used to believe it was a smart choice for sexual health, especially on hot summer days. I'd eat big slices without hesitation, thinking I was doing my body good. But here's the part most men over 60 never hear. When you eat watermelon the wrong way, especially first thing in the morning or in large quantities, it can quietly sabotage your erections. Yes, even this so-called performance fruit can backfire if you're not careful. The issue lies in its high glycemic load. While it's mostly water, watermelon is also packed with fast-digesting natural sugars. Eat it on an empty stomach, and you get a sharp blood sugar spike. That spike triggers a rush of insulin, which in turn lowers testosterone, disrupts nitric oxide, and inflames the very blood vessels your erections rely on. Worse, it digests quickly and leaves you hungry, which can send you reaching for more carbs later in the day, fueling a roller coaster of energy dips and sugar cravings. And that pattern, it chips away at your stamina, mood, and confidence without you ever connecting it back to a slice of fruit you thought was helping. Now, I'm not saying watermelon is all bad. If you enjoy it, there's still a place for it, just not first thing in the morning. Try having a small portion after a protein-rich meal, when your blood sugar is more stable and your body can process it more effectively. And if you thought watermelon was sneaky, wait until you hear what's next. This fruit is tropical, wildly popular, and surprisingly destructive when it comes to testosterone and long-term performance. Fruit 5. Mangoes, the tropical trap. I'll be the first to admit mangoes were one of my favorites. Sweet, juicy, and full of nostalgia. I used to enjoy them on warm mornings, convinced I was making a healthy choice. But over time, I began to notice changes: lower energy, less drive, and a subtle decline in how my body responded. What I didn't realize then is that mangoes, for all their flavor and appeal, are loaded with sugar. 1 cup of diced mango has over 20 grams of it. And when eaten on an empty stomach, especially first thing in the morning, that sugar floods your bloodstream, leading to the same hormonal response we've talked about: an insulin spike, a dip in testosterone, and stress on your vascular system. The result? Over time, mangoes can chip away at the very systems that support strong erections and steady energy. And because the damage isn't instant, most men never realize the cause. They just assume it's age, but often it's breakfast. If you still want to enjoy mangoes, limit the portion and never eat them alone or first thing in the day. Pair them with some protein and healthy fats to buffer the sugar impact, or save them for special occasions rather than a daily ritual. And now we move on to one of the most misunderstood fruits of Allah. Fruit praised for its antioxidants, but quietly capable of sabotaging your hormones and energy. Ready to find out what it is? Let's keep going. Fruit 5. Mangoes. The hidden hormonal saboteur. Here's something most older men never hear. While mangoes are delicious and packed with tropical charm, they're also loaded with fructose form of sugar that gets processed directly by your liver. Now, that might not be a big deal when you're young and metabolically resilient, but after 60, when insulin resistance creeps in and your liver function isn't what it used to be, that same sweetness can start causing real problems. Fructose overload contributes to fatty liver buildup, something that's been strongly linked to declining testosterone. And when testosterone falls, so does your ability to perform in the bedroom. Add to that the blood sugar spike mangoes trigger, and you're doubling down on the hormonal disruption and poor blood flow that fuel erectile dysfunction. The real kicker? Mangoes digest fast. So not only do you get the sugar spike and hormonal dip, but you're also left hungry again soon after, which keeps you riding the blood sugar roller coaster all day. If you enjoy mangoes, like I do, don't panic, just rethink how and when you eat them. Treat them like a sweet treat, not a breakfast staple. Have a few slices after a balanced lunch with protein and fat to buffer the sugar. But whatever you do, skip them first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. Fruit 6. Pineapple, the tropical trap. Up next is a fruit that looks like it belongs in every healthy breakfast bowl. Pineapple seems light, bright, and good for digestion. For years, I thought so until I looked at what it was really doing inside the body, especially for men over 60. Pineapple may seem harmless, but it packs a surprising sugar punch. 1 cup contains over 16 grams of sugar and very little fiber to slow that sugar down. Eat that on an empty stomach, and you're triggering an insulin surge almost instantly. That surge sets off inflammation, throws your hormones off balance, and interferes with nitric oxide production, the very compound your body needs to send blood to your penis and keep it there during intimacy. And here's the part most men miss. As we age, our ability to manage blood sugar declines. That means your body responds more aggressively and recovers more slowly. What seems like a refreshing morning snack can quietly drain your energy, reduce desire, and chip away at your performance until one day you start to wonder what happened. If you enjoy pineapple, you don't have to give it up completely. Just enjoy it after a meal, when your blood sugar is already stabilized. The goal isn't to fear fruit, but to respect its power and time it wisely. Up next, we'll look at the 7th and final fruit on this listone that's supposed to be good for your heart, yet could be slowly shutting down your sexual function from the inside out. Let's keep going. Fruit 7. Dried fruit, the deceptive morning spike. This last one might surprise you the most because it's often found in health food stores, labeled natural, and tossed into breakfast dishes without a second thought. But for men in their 60s and beyond, dried fruit might be one of the most damaging habits you never questioned. I'm talking about raisins, dates, dried apricots, those little chewy snacks that seem harmless, even helpful. I used to think so too. I'd throw a few into my oatmeal or snack on a handful with my morning coffee, thinking I was making a clean, nutritious choice. But here's what I've come to learn. Dried fruit is basically sugar in a concentrated form. When the water's removed, you're left with a tiny package of fructose that your body absorbs rapidly, especially dangerous when eaten alone on an empty stomach. Without fiber to buffer it, that sugar rush sends your insulin soaring. And that's bad news for testosterone, blood flow, and nitric oxide production, three things that work together to support strong, lasting erections. When insulin spikes, testosterone takes a hit, inflammation rises, and the arteries feeding your manhood begin to tighten and stiffen. You won't feel it immediately, but over time, that small, sweet habit can chip away at your performance until one morning you wake up wondering where your edge went and why it hasn't come back. If you still want to include dried fruit, here's how to do it smartly. Never on an empty stomach. Never as your main breakfast. Save it for after a meal with protein and healthy fats, so your body can process it more gently. 8. What you can do today, rebuilding with the right foods. So, now that we've gone through the fruits to avoid, let me share the good news. Because this isn't just about restriction, it's about replacement. Some fruits can actually do the opposite of what we've just talked about. They can lift testosterone, increase nitric oxide, and even help restore the energy and confidence that's been fading. And the best part? The shift doesn't have to be drastic. I understand this might feel like a load, especially if these fruits have been part of your routine for years. I've been there too. For much of my life, I believed I was eating smart. I had no idea that what I thought was healthy could be the very thing holding me back. But once I made the change and once my patients did too, everything started to shift. And that's what we'll talk about next. The fruits that support male vitality after 60 and how to start using them to your advantage. 8. What you need to do today. Taking the first step toward renewal. I remember when I started noticing the changes my energy felt off. My drive was inconsistent, and my ability to respond the way I used to. It just wasn't there anymore. At first, I chalked it up to aging, but over time, both in my experience and watching countless patients go through the same thing, I realized the truth. Those so-called healthy breakfast fruits were quietly draining us. Not all at once. It happened gradually. A little less energy in the mornings, a few more frustrations in the evening, and eventually, the quiet belief that this is just what getting older feels like. But that's not the full picture, not by a long shot. The good news? You don't need to overhaul your entire lifestyle tomorrow, but you do need to begin. Starting with your next breakfast, remove those 7 fruits from your plate. Instead, reach for foods that keep your blood sugar steady and support better blood flow. Try a couple of eggs, some avocado, plain Greek yogurt, or a modest handful of berries. Skip the juice, drink water first thing to rehydrate and reset. And pay attention to your body. Within days, you may notice subtle improvements, more energy, sharper focus, maybe even a return of that morning response you thought was gone for good. If you're curious about the fruits and foods that can actually help support erections and hormone balance, stay tuned, because that's coming up next. 9. Conclusion. The power to choose, the power to change. Now let's bring it all home. If you're still reading, thank you for being here, for being open, and most of all, for choosing to take your health into your own hands. Because here's the reality. Bananas, grapes, orange juice, watermelon, mangoes, pineapple, and dried fruit, they don't come with warning labels. They look like healthy choices. They've been part of your morning for years, maybe decades. But for men over 60, those same fruits can quietly disrupt hormones, damage blood vessels, and take a toll on the one area of life we all value deeply: intimacy. I've watched this unfold with countless men who felt tired, disconnected, not quite themselves. But when they started changing their breakfast habits, things started turning around. This isn't about fear. It's about taking control. You're not broken. You're not past your prime. You've just been following advice that no longer works for the stage of life you're in. But now you know better, and that's your turning point. So tomorrow morning, make a new choice. Skip the sugary fruit bowl. Start your day with foods that truly nourish and support your body. Your energy will build. Your clarity will return. And yes, your bedroom confidence will follow. It might not happen overnight, but it will happen. And this is just the beginning. Because there are fruit seas, Fruits that can help restore blood flow, improve testosterone, and reignite the spark you thought was fading. I'll walk you through those next, because you deserve to feel alive again in your body, your mind, and your relationship. Let's get there, one morning at a time.